Well, from the Kenya Airways numbers, we want to shift gears a bit and talk about legacy leadership. And I have with me an interesting panel this afternoon to help us dissect some of the important aspects around this. Allow me to give the guests the pleasure to introduce themselves. Let's start off with you.
My name is Thriti Engineer Mbuthia. I'm an executive coach and a chartered marketer.
All right, welcome to KTN.
Thank you.
Andrew Mutuma, Managing Director of DHL Express Kenya, as well as a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing.
Fantastic. Allow me to start with the lady. And it's an interesting time really for leadership. And talk to us about where we are as a country when it comes to good governance and ethics for the leaders in corporate Kenya.
It's an interesting question that you pose, and I think right now our country is being challenged very severely in all sectors, not just in the corporate sector, but perhaps also in the political space as well. A good leader is the one who sort of drives everything in an organization, in a country, and so it's absolutely important for us to have the kind of leaders who we respect, who can take us to the next level, and who are very visionary in their approach to things. Mm-hmm. Ethically, also, we need leaders who embrace good ethics and good leadership. This is pretty evident in the midst of all the stories we've been hearing, about different kinds of scandals, different kinds of corruption issues. So, more and more as a country, we really need good leadership and leaders who believe in their ethical values. Mm-hmm. I think values also is something that becomes very key here.
Interesting points as well. Yeah. And Mutuma, over to you.
Well, I think a visionary leader or legacy leadership is all about what happens when you're not there. And I think many times we don't focus on that. Our leadership focuses on the here and now. It's about me. And we need to really focus on what happens for us in the future. I think the other thing about our leadership, a lot of it I see in corporate Kenya, is accountability. But that is one thing we don't have in the political realm of things. There is that lack of accountability. There is no consequence for a leader when you do the wrong thing. While as in corporate Kenya, you don't do the right thing, then you face, you face the wrath not only of the organization, mm-hmm. but also for the people that you work for.
Interesting. And Andrew, there's a lot of efforts towards being able to provide sufficient coaching for people in positions of leadership, be it from institutions of higher learning and online studying. And talk to us about the experience you've had when it comes to developing a good team and, of course, preparing it for when you're not there.
I think my experience is that leadership, when you talk about succession planning, it's got to be purposeful. You have to be purposeful in terms of looking for somebody who can move the business forward. The second thing is got to be systematic. There's got to be a plan for that particular individual, so that if you identify a person or persons, because you're not talking just about one particular role, you're talking about several, mm-hmm. then it is important to begin building that capacity for that individual. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what you're looking at the end of the day is basically leadership continuity and business continuity. Mm-hmm. And I think so long as you have those two aspects in understanding that the business has to continue moving, and there is that sustained capacity for the business mm-hmm. to continue growing, then you work on your systems to ensure that you have the right people in place.
All right. And let me come over back to you. Of course, there's a big event coming up, which will be definitely delving deeper into this. Perhaps just walk us through what to expect from the Legacy Leadership Power Breakfast.
All right. So this Chartered Institute of Marketing has put together an event reaching out to all marketers in the country. And the topic for the breakfast meeting is legacy leadership. The thinking behind it was that we really need to be at the forefront as marketers, making sure that we develop leaders of today, and we also develop leaders for tomorrow. And in the process, we want to challenge the marketing fraternity and the fraternity in the business world at large. What kind of a leader are you? Mm-hmm. And what legacy are you going to leave behind? As in, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yes.
And we have a panel of experts who are going to share with us their experiences and tell us a little bit more about what this legacy leadership is all about.
Yes.
Anyone can be a leader. I mean, we have traditionally thought of leaders as people who are in positions of power or in maybe in a space where they are known, yeah? Say,
Yes.
for example, in the media. But that's not really true. Anyone can be a leader. So how do you learn how to become a leader? And I think the question has always come, are leaders made or are they born? And we have that debate going on. So
I can see Andrew smiling.
we are on the path to try and make sure that we help make the leaders of today and we equip them to be the leaders of tomorrow.
Interesting. And Andrew, she's raising an important issue of legacy leadership. And let's talk about people who have been out there leading organizations, then they get their image tainted for perhaps mismanagement, and you're kicked out of a board. Is there any cause for remedy for such CEOs or high flyers?
They've always said, so long as you are a CEO, you must always be prepared to be the first one out because you're quite visible in as far as the business is concerned. But yes, you have a few who pretty much leave organizations because of the wrong thing. But I always say that is not the end of an individual. I think life has taught me it's not how you fall, it's how you get up. And so I think primarily the whole aspect, the thing about Kenya is that when somebody is tainted, you are dead, done, finished. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. I think we need to teach people that, yes, people make mistakes, but so long as you have the attitude and the opportunity to make it right, then you should be able to be allowed to do that. And, pretty much in legacy leadership, it's all about that. And if you think about a lot of people in history, I was reading about Lincoln. If you think about, him and leading the U.S., there's so many times he failed. But if he was told at those points you are dead and dusted, he would never have made it. And that also applies to a lot of leaders who are in politics today.
Sure.
If you go back into some of their histories, there are a lot of issues surrounding that. But I always say, so long as you can make it right, that is what is important, that you can rise up again and move to the next level.
Interesting. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. And we'll definitely be taking this conversation forward on social media, and we'll be interacting with you even as we continue the partnership. Many thanks.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, let's get to some more stories now. And in the recent weeks, the Ministries of Agriculture and of Lands, in conjunction with the Commission on Privatization, have had engagements with county governments in Western Kenya with regards to privatization of state-owned sugarcane millers. Our reporter, Kevin Ogutu, now brings us the faces behind the privatization talks.
Tabitha Obwanga, a resident of Miwani area in Muhoroni sub-county, was for years a dedicated sugarcane farmer. With her 7 acres of land, she was sure of reasonable income from Miwani Sugar Factory until it went under in the year 2001 for the second time. A few meters away from Tabitha's compound is Imelda Achieng, yet another farmer who has long given up on sugarcane farming. Her story is not any different from Tabitha's.
Sasa Miwani kikwama, sasa hakuna kazi inaendelea mzuri. Sasa imefanya nisilime, nilease tu nikule naye na watoto kwa maana niko peke yangu.
For over a decade now, there have been attempts to privatize the 5 sugar factories in Nyanza and Western regions, a drive that saw only Mumias Sugar finally privatized in the year 2006 through an initial public offer at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. For the 3 other millers, that is Miwani, Chemelil, and Muhoroni, all under receivership, and Sony Sugar in Migori, the journey has not been easy. Once again, a new attempt to offer a new lease of life.
Privatization was being done without taking into cognizance the actual people's wish. People would wish that if they're doing if they're going to do active privatization, then serious public participation must be done. The public's wishes must be factored.
Migori Governor Okoth Obado, the chair of Council of Governors Department of Agriculture, says only involvement of all stakeholders will make the work to ensure privatization easier.
The county governments that were not in place when the privatization process started are now saying that they are serious stakeholders and they need to be consulted.
At the heart of these deliberations is the question of land, its ownership, and its massive costs.
So we are so much in the dark, if you ask me, on what happens to the land, or rather how the privatization is going to be approached. Because we have the machines here as a going concern as well, and there's a land that it stands on.
There was previously an attempt to defraud the public of the land by some unscrupulous Asian businessmen trading as some offshore company. And they purportedly bought this in a non-existent auction.
But despite the push and pull between various stakeholders, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri's statement gives those who have been carrying the yoke of the sugar industry in Kenya some hope.
The National Land Commission conducts title deed searches for each sugar company. That the National Land Commission conducts site visits and hearings of both communities and leaders within the next 2 weeks. A report on the status of the land where the factories are located, as well as new clears, be prepared and presented to the IBEC.
As a result of this political goodwill, there may just be some real movement this time round. This week, the Sugar Privatization Committee will hold a stakeholders forum in Miwani and Muhoroni areas, with the hope that the meetings will solve the teething problems encountered so far. Kevin Ogutu, KTN News.